When I first moved in with Chris, I did not think much about it. We were just two guys splitting the rent, living in the same space but leading separate lives. He had his world, and I had mine. That was how it had always been. Chris was the kind of guy who never had to try too hard. You know the type, naturally cool, effortlessly liked by everyone. He played basketball, hit the gym a few times a week, and always had some girl interested in him. His phone was constantly buzzing with texts, usually from some girl trying to set up a date. Me? I was the opposite. I liked staying home, playing games, and keeping things simple. My idea of a great night was ordering takeout and watching a good show. I was not bad with people, but I did not go out of my way to be social. Chris and I got along because we respected each other's space. We had been living together for a while, and nothing had ever felt weird. I never thought about him in any way other than as my roommate. He was straight, had always been. I had seen him with girls too many times to think otherwise. So, whatever thoughts occasionally crossed my mind, I ignored them. But lately, something felt different. At first, I thought I was imagining things. Chris had always been a little physical, punching my shoulder when he joked around, pulling me into a headlock when he was messing with me. But it had changed. It was small stuff, things I could have ignored if they had happened once. But they kept happening. Like the way he sat a little closer when we watched movies, his arm stretched along the back of the couch so that his fingers almost brushed my shoulder. Or the way he looked at me when he thought I was not paying attention too long, like he was trying to figure something out. Then there were his jokes. They had always been stupid, but now they had a different edge to them. "You are lucky I am not into guys," he had said once, after I beat him at a game, flashing that cocky grin of his. It was nothing, just words. But then there was the time he had been texting some girl and suddenly asked me, "Do you think I could ever be into a guy?" I had laughed it off, shaking my head. "You? No chance." Chris had shrugged, smirking. "Yeah, probably not." Probably. That word stuck with me more than it should have. Then there was the night everything changed. It had been a long day. We had both gone out with some friends, had a few drinks, and come home later than usual. I was exhausted, ready to crash, when Chris suddenly stopped in the hallway. "You mind if I sleep in your room tonight?" he asked, rubbing the back of his neck. I frowned. "What? Why?" He shrugged, looking casual, but something about the way he said it felt off. "I just do not feel like being alone." I stared at him for a second, trying to figure out if he was messing with me. But he just stood there, waiting for an answer. Yeah, sure, I guess," I finally said. I did not know why I agreed. Maybe because he had asked so casually. Maybe because it was late, and I was too tired to think about it. Maybe because, deep down, I was curious. I climbed into bed first, turning off the lamp while Chris stretched out beside me. We lay there in the dark, side by side. At first, it felt fine. Normal. Just two guys sharing a bed for the night, nothing weird about it. But as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I could feel how close he was. I could hear his breathing, steady but slow. I could feel the warmth of his body next to mine. And that was when I realized I was not imagining things. This was different. I just did not know why yet. The next morning, I woke up to something that was not normal. I had not even opened my eyes yet, but I could feel it, warmth, pressure, something solid against my back. It took me a second to piece it together, but when I did, my whole body went stiff. Chris was right up against me. His arm had somehow ended up draped over my waist, his chest pressed lightly to my back. And it was not just that. His fingers were curled into the fabric of my t-shirt, gripping it in a way that did not feel accidental. My heart kicked up a notch. For a long moment, I did not move. I barely breathed. Maybe he was still asleep. Maybe he had rolled over without thinking. That had to be it. But then, I felt him shift, just a little. Not pulling away. Not waking up and realizing what he was doing. No, this was different. His fingers tensed against my shirt for just a second, like he was holding onto me in his sleep. Like he was comfortable. Like he had been here before. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I needed to move. I needed to turn over and wake him up, make a joke, shake this weird feeling off. But I just did not. I did not understand why, but I stayed still. Maybe because I was trying to make sense of it. Maybe because I did not want to believe this was happening. Or maybe because I did not hate it. The realization hit me hard. I had spent years pushing away any thought of Chris as anything more than a friend. It was easy. He was straight, no question about it. I had seen him with too many girls to believe otherwise. And yeah, maybe I had noticed things before, how good he looked, how easy he made everything seem, but it had never mattered. But now? Now, I was lying here in my bed, feeling every inch of where his body pressed against mine, and my brain was refusing to do the logical thing and move away. Then, just as I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind, Chris stirred. His breath hitched, his fingers flexing against my shirt before slowly, too slowly, pulling away. He rolled onto his back, exhaling softly, like he was just waking up. I waited for him to say something. To make some dumb joke, to brush it off, to act like it was nothing. But he did not. He just lay there for a second, staring at the ceiling. Then, finally, he let out a quiet breath. "Morning," he said, his voice a little rough from sleep. I hesitated before answering. "Morning." That was it. No weird tension. No explanation. Just a normal morning, like nothing had happened. Except, I knew something had. Chris got up first, stretching his arms above his head like he had not just spent the night wrapped around me. He walked out of the room like it was nothing, like I was not still lying there, overthinking every second of what had just happened. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Had that been an accident? Had he even realized what he was doing? Maybe I was making something out of nothing. Or maybe things between us were starting to change. And if they were, I did not know what to do about it. The whole day, I tried to shake it off. I told myself it was nothing. Just a weird accident. Chris probably had no idea it even happened. He had not acted any different, same easygoing attitude, same lazy grin when he cracked jokes. So why was I still thinking about it? Why did it feel like something had shifted? By the time night rolled around, I had convinced myself to drop it. It was just one of those things I would overthink while Chris would go on like it never happened. We went out that evening, met up with some friends, had a couple of drinks. Nothing crazy, just a regular night. We laughed, talked, messed around like usual. Chris flirted with a girl at the bar, and for a while, things felt normal again. But then, when we got back home, that weird tension crept back in. Chris shut the door behind us, stretching like he was shaking off the night. "Man, I am wiped," he said, kicking off his shoes. "Yeah, me too," I said, heading toward my room. I was almost at the door when Chris spoke again. "Hey." I turned around. Chris was standing in the middle of the room, rubbing the back of his neck, his expression unreadable. "Mind if I crash in your room again?" My stomach flipped. There was no good reason for him to ask that. Chris never had trouble sleeping alone. He had his own bed, his own space. And yet, here he was, looking at me like he was waiting for me to say yes. I could have said no. I could have made up an excuse, played it off like it was weird. But I did not. "Sure," I said. Chris nodded like it was no big deal and followed me in. We climbed into bed, and for a moment, everything felt normal. The room was dark, quiet except for the hum of the ceiling fan. We lay side by side, just like the night before, facing opposite directions. But I could feel it. The weight of his presence. The way his breathing felt a little too deliberate, like he was trying to keep it steady. Minutes passed. Maybe longer. I was not sure anymore. Then, just like the night before, I felt him move. A slow shift, just enough that I could tell he was closer. I held my breath. Then, soft, hesitant, his arm draped over me again. This time, there was no pretending it was an accident. His fingers curled into the fabric of my shirt, just like before. His body pressed up against mine, warm, solid, real. I swallowed hard. My heart was pounding so loud, I was sure he could hear it. But I did not move. And neither did he. For a long time, we just lay there, neither of us saying a word. Then, in the quiet darkness, Chris whispered, "You awake?" His voice was different this time, soft, uncertain. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah." A beat of silence. Then Chris exhaled slowly, his fingers tightening against my shirt. "I do not know what I am doing," he admitted. His voice was quiet, rough, like he was struggling to say the words out loud. I do not want to stop." My breath caught in my throat. Neither did I. I did not move. I could feel Chris behind me, the warmth of his breath against my neck, the way his fingers had tensed against my shirt when he admitted he did not want to stop. I did not know what to say. Everything in my head was tangled. This was Chris. My roommate. My friend. The guy who always had a different girl texting him, who spent his weekends out at bars, who had never, not once, given me a reason to think he might be into guys. And yet, here we were. His arm around me, his body close, his words hanging heavy between us. I could have pulled away. Could have laughed it off, made a joke, acted like it was nothing. That was what I should have done. But I did not. Instead, I shifted just enough to turn onto my back, just enough to see his face in the dim light filtering through the window. Chris was staring at me. I could not read his expression, his jaw was tight, his brows furrowed like he was trying to figure something out. But he did not look like he regretted it. His hand was still resting against my shirt, like he was waiting for me to push it away. I did not. "Chris," I started, my voice quieter than I meant for it to be. "I know," he said, cutting me off before I could ask the question we were both thinking. But did he? Did he really know what this meant? I searched his face for any sign that he was messing with me, that this was some kind of joke or experiment. But there was nothing playful about the way he was looking at me. For the first time since I had known him, Chris looked uncertain. Like he was stepping into something he did not understand. Like he was afraid of what came next. And for some reason, that made it real. Chris did not move. He just kept staring at me, his breathing a little too controlled, like he was waiting for me to do something, anything. I could have ended it right there. Could have pulled away, told him it was fine, told him we could pretend it never happened. But I did not. Instead, I did the one thing I had spent years convincing myself I would never do. I leaned in. It was not planned. It was not some big, dramatic moment. It just happened. A slow, uncertain movement, my lips barely brushing against his. For a second, he froze. And then, just as I was about to pull away, he closed the space between us. His mouth met mine, hesitant at first, like he was still trying to figure out if this was okay. Then, something shifted. His fingers curled into my shirt, pulling me closer. The hesitation faded, replaced by something else, something he was no longer trying to fight. Chris kissed me like he had been holding back for too long. And I kissed him back. The next morning, things felt different. Not bad. Just off. Chris got up before I did, slipping out of bed without a word. I heard him in the kitchen, moving around, making coffee. He was avoiding me. I stayed in bed longer than I needed to, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. What had happened last night, there was no taking it back. No pretending it had not happened. We had crossed a line. But what did that mean? By the time I got up and walked into the kitchen, Chris was already drinking his coffee, scrolling through his phone like nothing had changed. I hesitated before sitting across from him. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I finally broke the silence. "Are we going to talk about this?" Chris did not look up. He took a slow sip of coffee, then sighed. "I do not know what to say." I frowned. "You could start with whether or not you regret it." That got his attention. His eyes flicked up to meet mine, and for a second, I saw something there, something raw, something he was trying to hide. "I do not regret it," he said. And just like that, my chest loosened. But before I could say anything, he set his cup down and ran a hand through his hair. I do not know what this means." Neither did I. That night, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when my phone buzzed. "Chris, can I come over?" I stared at the message for a second. Then I typed back, "Yeah." A few minutes later, I heard my door open. Chris stood there, hesitating, looking like he was still trying to figure out if this was the right thing to do. I did not say anything. I just moved over. He shut the door and walked in, sitting on the edge of the bed. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, he reached out, his fingers brushing against mine. It was not a big move. Not some grand, dramatic moment. But it was enough. And maybe, just maybe, it was the start of something real.